there's a way of adding a starter set of data to this thing to play around with. And if you want to do that, you certainly can. But I'm just going to connect to it from Python in the interests of time. And to find out how to do that, you can click on this connect button here, and it pops up some choices. So this lets me tell the system how I want to connect to the database, and it will tell me what I need to know in order to do that kind of connection. So I'm going to mention that there's a thing called MongoDB shell that you can download off of the internet, which will allow you to run a shell in a console window, a command window, that will allow you to connect to your MongoDB database and execute commands in something that's like a command line. And that can be convenient. Or you can just do it from Python, which is what I mainly do. Or you can specify I want to connect from my application. So this is what I'm ultimately interested in, because I want to write a Python program that stores stuff in my MongoDB database. So I'm going to click connect your application. And then I can select the driver is going to be Python. So I want a Python driver. And then for version, I'm just going to pick the latest. This is the connection string. Now, I am actually going to want to make some changes to this connection string for my real program here, but I'm going to start by copying that. And let me paste it here in Notepad. And let me walk you through what's here. So this is the protocol that it's going to use to connect to the database. And this plus SRV is important here because it means we have to use a slightly different version of pymongo, which is the database driver for Python that will let us talk to MongoDB. Anyways, then this part here is my username and password. So I'm going to go ahead and actually fill in what I think is my real password. So CI user dash 233Y. Hopefully, we'll find out. And then this is a virtual host on the internet where my database is going to be located. And this part here is what I specified for the name of the cluster. And this thing is something that basically Atlas makes up for each cluster you provision, seems to be. Then by default, it's going to connect to my first database, but I don't actually want to connect to my first database. I'm going to specify what database I want to connect to in my Python code. And then some options, rewrites as true and majority. And I don't actually even really know what that does, but couldn't hurt to include it. So that's going to be the connection string I use. And then, so what do I do with this connection string? I'm going to pass it into a constructor for Mongo client that's part of a database driver called pymongo. But before I can do that, I have to actually install pymongo on my machine. So I'm going to go ahead and start a command prompt. And actually, I'm going to run this as administrator just in case. I don't think I really have to, but I'm going to do it. And then from here, if I type python -- version and everything's configured correctly, I should see that it's Python version 3.10.0. Yours might be later. Hopefully it's more recent. And then I can also do pip -- version. And so this is my default Python and pip installation. It's in my app data local programs, Python 3.10. And so I have that on my path already. If you don't see this, it means your path is not set up correctly. And so let me know and I can help you do that. But if you do see this, you should be good to go. So here's the command to actually install the correct version of pymongo. Pip install, and then you say pymongo square bracket SRV square bracket double quote. And I think I probably put something like Python 3-m pip install in the core shell, but if your paths are set up correctly, this will work just fine. And that's what you should see. If you see this, then yay, it worked. Yay, that's always good. So this should be all you need to do to install the correct version of pymongo. So now let's go over to PyCharm in my course instructors, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new Python file called database. And this is going to be a class named database. So I'm spelling it with a capital D here. And then inside of here, I'm going to have a class database. And then what do I want? I want to have a constructor, maybe, maybe not. For right now, I actually just want to test some stuff. And so I'm going to pass for now and come back to it later. And what I'll do instead is if under name is under main, I'm going to call test database. And then test database, let's write some Python code in here. So welcome to pymongo. And then just to make sure everything's right, I'm going to right click on database and run it. And it says, welcome to pymongo. So let's connect to the database. And the way that's going to work is first I create a client. And I have to call a method called pymongo.mongo client. So from pymongo, import star, and then client equals Mongo client, and then I just pass in my connection string with double quotes around it. And then if I've done everything right, I should have a database connection. So let's print it. And then I'm going to run database again. And so what I get is a Mongo client object with these configuration properties.